Ready wherever you are.
Ready. All right. Ready.
Hello and welcome to edition 2 of the Bruce and Bob Show. I'm Bob Mueller with News 2, political reporter, anchor here, Bruce W., Nashville media entrepreneur. And we're here with our little podcast. We've been trying to introduce folks to political coverage here in Tennessee. Bruce and I have been covering politics since, well,
far too long.
Since Nashville wanted to distance itself from country music. Remember that brilliant move?
You remember that.
That didn't work so well. Anyway, what our plan is, and we've had episode 1, got some nice feedback from you folks, try to give you a little bit of insight, not just what's passed and why it's passed, but how it's done, what the reasons are, what the strategy is. A little bit later, we're going to talk with John Rowley of Fletcher Rowley, talk a little bit about strategy behind issues on the Capitol, as well as nationally with political races, with the presidential race. We're going to start, though, with some stuff going on locally. Nashville Mayor Megan Barry, in office for 6 months, getting rave reviews, doing a great job, being tested now for the first time as she deals with a homeless issue at Fort Negley. There's been always on the books a no camping piece of legislation. It's illegal to camp there, but it's been kind of not enforced. Homeless folks have had a camp there for a while. It's grown. They have encampments. It's kind of a permanent facility for some folks. And there came a time where it's okay, we have to move these folks out. The police were going to go move in and move them out in one fell swoop. She stopped that.
Right.
Kind of talked to the homeless advocates, talked to other folks about a way to better address the issue. But now the issue is being addressed. The folks are being moved out. Some people have been cited. There's been no violence. There are still a few folks there who they're having a difficult time finding places for.
Right.
But other than that, it is moving forward. And this is really the first test of her administration.
First real test of her administration, and funny, it comes from the left. You had the organization Open Table, which is an advocacy group for the disenfranchised, for homeless people, who were harshly critical of this move. They are in favor of allowing homeless people to camp in public parks. So here she
It's
takes,
legal in other some cities.
It's legal. I mean, you know, you can go to San Francisco and see homeless people living in parks, Los Angeles. Megan did not want that to happen here. So funny that the challenge to her comes from the left and not from her right. I mean, she ran to the left of everyone in the primary for mayor, in the election for mayor.
Is this going to prove, obviously it's a much bigger issue than Fort Negley. Obviously the homeless situation has grown. There's a lot of great facilities. The rescue mission does a terrific job, but it doesn't solve the problem. Is this going to be the codicil that begins the discussion for a bigger solution or a bigger attack on the problem?
Well, she really has to articulate to Nashville what are her big priorities right now. And if there's a criticism of Megan after 6 months, is that she's trying to be all things to all people. Affordable housing is one of the big issues, and it appears that may be a top priority for her. So if it is, that's where this homeless solution has to appear in that category.
Gentrification is a big issue. She talked about in the election when she was running, and it becomes an issue with rent rates that have gone through the roof. You know, it's a fair market, open market if you get what you can pay for and you get what the market demands, and they are really expensive. And there's a lot of complaints. A lot of folks can't afford to live downtown, folks who've lived here for a long time being priced out of their homes. And so the affordable housing, low-income housing, what to do with the remaining Casey homes and the J.C. Napier homes, those all become part of this discussion.
Well, what she's done with this is she has tried to find a solution which is not dependent upon government to find a place for these homeless to live. So the solution that she's found is with this Green Street Church, which is up Hermitage Avenue. And she and the administration have come up with $120,000, $150,000 to buy these micro homes in which to place the homeless people, which is actually a pretty cool solution to the problem.
And it's not a solution, but it's a temporary. It gets them a place, a safe place, while they find that location for a permanent location. Most of these folks have jobs. A lot of them are at least interviewing for jobs. They just aren't making enough money to pay the rents, and there's not enough low-income housing for these folks to move to. So it's a bigger problem, but it is being addressed.
But in the optics of this, if you're Megan Barry, you're so correct. This is the first big challenge to her administration. The optics of this, very, very ugly. You know, TV cameras down at Fort Negley, interviewing the homeless people who claim that they're being thrown, you know, they're being thrown out of where they live, where they have their community. So the optics were potentially very ugly, and I think she's handled it pretty well.
And the obstacles are bigger than folks not having a home. There's a lot of mental health issues. There's jobless issues.
There was a pregnant woman among the people she was throwing out of the park.
A lot of the homeless people is changed. The demographic is changing. It's women and children. Right. So finding these folks homes becomes more difficult than it was 25 years ago when the stereotypical homeless person was a male, middle-aged or older. It's not that anymore. It's
Right.
families. It's people who are actually working but can't afford homes.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, you look at her administration so far, you'd have to conclude that what she's saying is, I think she's focused on three areas. I think she's focused on public education. And if you were to judge by what she's announced in the past couple of weeks, it's transit. So you got public education and transit. And the third issue is going to be affordable housing. So I think that's her wheelhouse right now. And the more that she can articulate to voters exactly what she's focused on, I think they're going to be better off, and we, the voters, are going to be better
And I think
off.
the people of Nashville will probably keep an eye on her agenda because I think you've hit it on the head. I think transit's going to be the next big issue. And it's not just Nashville, but she wants to a conglomeration, talking with county mayors and cities around the country, around the metro area, Murfreesboro, Clarksville. It has to be a unified effort. It can't just come from Nashville. It can start in Nashville and move out, but once it gets out there, that has to be a group discussion, a group solution to the problem.
You nailed it. And this morphs into a discussion of the legislature and what the legislature did or did not do this session. But you know, typically when Carl Dean was in office and tried to get after transit, he had a very, very difficult time with Republican legislators and Williamson and Rutherford and the border counties. Now what you find is traffic is their problem too.
Yes, it is. And
Traffic
it's big.
is bad in Franklin. Traffic is bad in Murfreesboro. So you've got the GOP there, desperate for a solution, and you can't make that solution without involving Metro Nashville and its chief executive. So I think Megan so far has well, we know that she's reached out to them. You're finding a coalition develop between Republicans in those ring counties and Democrats here in Nashville to try and find a solution. So far, they're working together. We'll see how far they get.
Bill Ketron in Murfreesboro with an idea for a monorail. Kim McMillan in Murfreesboro.
Right.
They're all have ideas from Clarksville to Nashville, from Murfreesboro to Nashville. So, like you said, the discussion can't just be in downtown Nashville.
Yeah.
You talked about the legislature. They are adjourning as we tape this. I guess election years are always those years when you never know what's going to happen. They're wild card years because a lot of the lawmakers are doing things that may pass, may not pass, but they're doing it for their constituents. Let's be honest. That's why they're there. They're trying to please their constituents. And I wanted your take on Governor Haslam. He really single-handedly, and probably to the dismay of some of his Republican colleagues, his more conservative colleagues, is responsible for the so-called transgender bathroom bill and the Bible as the official state book from those happening. The Bible bill as the official state book passed. He vetoed it. He convinced several members who voted for this to hold his veto. That happened just yesterday, so that's not going to happen. He was worried about constitutional issues as well as religious issues. Is this denigrating this holy book, which it is to many, many folks, and not everyone is a Christian in Middle Tennessee, so is it right to have the Christian Bible as the official book of the state? Anyway, he used his influence to make sure this happened. The same thing with the transgender bathroom bill. The criticism was coming from businesses that we may not want to be here, may want to take our business away if you start doing this. He convinced Susan Lynn, the sponsor, to put it off until at least next year. So while he received some criticism for not showing enough strength with Insure Tennessee and some other issues, he seems to be almost personally responsible for stopping these two issues.
Yeah, but how frustrating has it got to be for him to play defense all day long? I mean, very little did he accomplish that was actually on the offensive. I mean, he was just trying to please the business community by jerking the bathroom bill, by vetoing the Bible bill. What this shows is in such stark relief the two parties that are the Republican Party. You've got the Tea Party way white ring elements that were promoting the bathroom bill and that were promoting the Bible as a state book. And then you've got the business interests, of which Haslam is certainly, he's a billionaire and that's who he's comfortable with and his family has long been associated with. And they're much more into appeasing the concerns of businesses that may want to locate here, who are worried about the image that Tennessee projects to other businesses across the country when you do ban people from going in restrooms and you do have the Bible as a state book. So right now we've got two Republican parties and we've got a Democratic Party. He's a member of that business wing of the Republican Party and doing his best to squash the Tea Party wing. And so far, it's not going too well for the state.
How much does this hurt this effort as well, too? The governor stopped the transgender bill from happening this year. It'll be discussed again next year. But as it was happening, as that was on the floor of the House, lawmakers are criticizing businesses who are located here, who employ people here, for being supporters of this bill. threatening to take away incentives from some of these businesses. Is that a smart move? I mean, that's as bad as if these folks perceive this as discriminatory, passing that kind of legislation.
Yeah, and in the final analysis, I think business trumps all, money trumps all, and in the final analysis, I mean, business is going to win this argument. And so when you have issues such as the bathroom bill and the Bible bill, I think normally you see business triumph here, which is what happened.
Let's bring in John Rowley. John Rowley with Fletcher Rowley, political consultant. John, good to see you, pal.
Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you.
John has run
This is
many
a martini drinking
operation. Has
Right,
run many
I thought
different
you'd
camp-
introduce me as Rowley, John Rowley, maybe. But anyway.
Talk a little bit about your background. You've run many campaigns, not just here in Nashville, around the country. We want to talk to you about strategy. You know, that's the key to winning anything. And let's look at the transgender bathroom bill. This isn't happening in a vacuum here in Nashville. We saw it in North Carolina, we saw it in Georgia, we saw it in Mississippi. This is an effort, a concerted effort to get legislation passed. Agree or disagree with the legislation, what this is an attempt by those who oppose the court's decision on gay rights to try to do something that would make it harder. Again, agree or disagree, this is the way the country works. But this is an effort, this is a strategy. Talk about this strategy.
Sure. I mean, we've worked in probably 500 campaigns in almost every state in the country, and we were I saw this up front because it really began about a year and a half ago in Houston. And the mayor of Houston, one of the most high-profile LGBT elected officials in the country, passed the non-discrimination bill for the mayor. And so the counter to that was there was an effort to defeat that as a ballot measure. There was a ballot measure to repeal what she had passed. And the technique that they used, that the right discovered, was brilliant, and it was this whole bathroom argument. Because it's hard to refute, oh, children are going to be preyed upon.
Sure.
We all agree that's a bad thing. And even though they had elected her pretty solidly, this was overwhelmingly defeated. And so I knew at that point, I was pretty confident we would see this in other places. I'm a little surprised how quickly it's gone to legislatures all around the country, Tennessee, North Carolina. So this is literally, it's another example of a solution in search of a problem, because there have been zero incidents, criminal incidents of trans people preying upon someone. Now, there have been a number of Republican members of Congress picked up in bathrooms over the last few decades doing things. I think the count's 3-0 on that if you're keeping score. So I see this, it's kind of like voter ID. There's not been a big problem with voter ID, but it comes out of ALEC and some of these other extreme right-wing think tanks that drive some of the Tea Party agenda, not necessarily the Chamber of Commerce.
You have to give
agenda.
these folks, the Republicans, the conservative side of the Republicans, a lot of credit. Agree or disagree with what they're trying to do. They are organized, they are strong, they get the legislation out there, they get their people behind it.
And it is astonishing how they have dominated the conversation. The narrative of this session is such a right-wing narrative. You know, if you look at the bathroom bill, you look at guns on college campuses, the NRA coming in, the lower registration fee for lifetime membership or for when you want to register your handgun. All of those issues are way out of the right-wing playbook, and it just has dominated every single headline that we come across.
An interesting thing with the guns on college campuses, what it does is allow college staff and faculty to carry weapons on public universities. The legislature passed an amendment that it would make it optional for private universities. They would not pass that amendment for public universities, and I'll give the sponsor credit. When asked why, he said because they're all going to opt out.
Yeah. And to Bruce's earlier point, there is such a balkanization going on in politics on the left and on the right, and at the state level in these really red-dominated states by the Republicans, where they control most of the levers of the executive branch and legislative branch, this business community chasm from the Tea Party, it will not hold. I mean, and I think a few things in this last legislative session might be breaking points in terms of people on the floor calling out the chambers of commerce for lobbying them and essentially advocating what their members, some of the biggest employers in the state, if not the world, want, but attacking them for that. That's a new Rubicon we haven't seen crossed before.
Yeah, I think Insure Tennessee plays in big here too, because that is such a business issue, and the healthcare community in Nashville is so viscerally upset over not passing Insure Tennessee. And those are Republicans.
Right.
We're talking about the Frist family, the founders of HCA. I mean, they want that money flowing into their private hospitals. So there are some tipping points here, and I think you're exactly right. Where that business community goes is up for grabs.
Talk quickly about the presidential campaign. What fun we've had with this.
Yeah.
As a strategist, if you're the anybody but Trump people, is it too late to try that? If he doesn't get 1237, can they really keep the nomination from him? And if you're looking at both candidates, let's give it to Trump and give it to Hillary Clinton. They're the nominees with two of the highest negatives you've ever seen for candidates. How do you turn those around?
Well, this year for a political strategist, it's a little bit like learning the world's not flat back in the days of, intercontinental navigation. I mean, there's a lot of laws of physics that are being defied by Bernie Sanders and Trump. I think it's going to be very hard there's chaos either way. It's kind of like the old Steel Wheels song, I think they got jokers to the left and jokers to the right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be very hard to deny him the nomination if they try to. He can incite a rally or a riot with just the kind of a sentence or two here or there.
You know, what happens down ballot? You're dealing with a lot of down ballot races.
So what happens? Senate race.
Yeah, so Trump, he's the Republican nominee. What happens down ballot to your people?
Well, it at least isn't going to be a bad election cycle for Democrats. I think it'll be slightly good, and we could have a wave. I mean, the Republican Party's negatives are an all-time high, so that gives me some hope. If I really want to be rational and think clear-headed about it, it's hard to have a wave when you have the White House, essentially. I mean, you've got to be the out party in a major way to have a major wave, typically. Okay. So I think it could be a good cycle. I think we're really going to have to catch some breaks, and Trump or somebody's going to have to really go off the grid and not rein it in, which he's already doing, for it to be a wave.
If it gets to Hillary versus Trump, can Hillary win without Bernie Sanders people? Will Bernie Sanders, especially as young folks, which Hillary's doing terrible with, will they come out and vote, or will they stay home?
I think there's probably a percentage on both sides. Same with Trump, with a different nominee.
He needs some Cruz
who may not be energized, but at the end of the day, in this presidential election anyway, hate is more powerful than love. And I think distaste for a Cruz or a Trump or anybody the Republicans put up is probably going to outweigh hurt feelings. I mean, remember, there was a ton of drama around Hillary and Obama. Would Hillary's people come together? Would a lot of these women voters and others be alienated? And within a few weeks, it all kind of came together. I mean, the real story is how long will the chaos go on? Pre-convention, during the convention, after the convention. I mean, it's gonna be great copy. So,
John Rowley, appreciate your time and insight. Appreciate coming by the Bruce and Bob Show. What do you think, pal? That's show number 2. I think we've wrapped it up.
Show number 2 in the books. Congratulations.
We thank you. We thank you for watching. We wanted your feedback. We've gotten some feedback from episode 1. We're going to continue this on a weekly basis. You can see the podcast on my Facebook page at NashvilleBanner.com, at Bruce Doby. We're going to put it on John's Facebook page and other locations. We will get it to you. We're going to try to get it out there. We want your input, what you want us to talk about, and we appreciate very much you watching the Bruce and Bob Show from Jimmy Kelly's Steakhouse in downtown Nashville. That was awesome.
Cool.